My child, there are moments in life when the mind becomes so crowded with questions that it can no longer recognize what has already been made clear. You call this confusion. You call it pressure. You call it being stuck. You call it a season with no answer. But many times the problem is not that there is no answer. The problem is that your soul has become so overwhelmed by the noise around the answer that you keep walking past it while looking for something louder. That is where some of you are living now. You have been searching for the breakthrough, searching for clarity, searching for the sign, searching for one final explanation that will make every piece of your life fall neatly into place. And while you are searching, a deeper anxiety has been growing inside you. The anxiety is not only about the problem itself, it is about the fear that if you do not solve this quickly enough, something important will be lost forever. So you search harder, you think longer, you revisit old conversations, you imagine new scenarios, you ask more people, you rehearse more outcomes. You treat your mind like a room that must stay lit all night until the answer finally appears. But hear me carefully. You are not trapped because I failed to provide a way. You are trapped because you keep searching in circles around what I have already begun to reveal. The enemy loves to keep a person looking for dramatic answers when quiet obedience would already move them forward. He knows that if he can keep you obsessed with what is missing, you will overlook what has already been given. If he can keep you emotionally attached to complexity, you will distrust simple truth. If he can keep your thoughts addicted to endless interpretation, you will not recognize that the way out often begins with one clean step, not one perfect explanation. My child, I know why you are struggling to see it, because the way out I provided may not flatter your emotions. It may require release. It may require honesty. It may require walking away from what you still hoped would change. It may require closing a door you kept trying to hold open. It may require accepting that not every answer comes in the form of visible rescue. Sometimes the answer comes in the form of a decision your spirit already knows is true, but your heart is still resisting. That resistance has a voice. It says, maybe if I wait a little longer, it will fix itself. It says, maybe if I understand more first, I can avoid the pain. It says, maybe if I keep checking, something different will happen. It says, maybe if I try one more time, the ending will change. But sometimes one more try is not faith. Sometimes it is fear refusing to release control. There is a difference between patient trust and exhausted attachment. Patient trust can wait without becoming ruled by the outcome. Exhausted attachment keeps the heart bound to the same door long after peace has already left. You have been mistaking your attachment for wisdom. You have been calling your overanalysis discernment. You have been telling yourself that because the issue still feels emotionally unfinished, it must still be spiritually open. But not everything unfinished is still yours to keep carrying. Not everything unresolved requires more investigation. Not everything unclear needs one more round of searching. Sometimes the reason you cannot hear the answer clearly is because you have trained yourself to expect it to arrive in a more dramatic form. You want lightning. You want certainty. You want one final undeniable sign. But I often lead my children through cleaner means than that. A loss of peace, a repeated inner warning, a path that keeps growing heavier every time you force it. a quiet knowing you keep trying to talk yourself out of, a door that looks possible on the outside but costs too much of your soul to keep alive, a relationship that does not make you stronger in truth but smaller in clarity, a habit that continues to promise relief while leaving your spirit thinner each time, a conversation you already know needs to happen, a step of obedience you have postponed because it looks too simple to be the real answer. Do not underestimate simple obedience. Many people stay trapped not because God has hidden the way, but because the first step looks too ordinary to feel like breakthrough. They want a miracle that changes everything around them without first requiring anything honest within them. They want the Red Sea to part before they take one step toward the shore. They want new freedom while preserving old attachments. They want resolution while still bargaining with what is draining them. But the way out often begins before the full picture is visible. That is what makes it faith. My child, do you know how many seasons feel impossible simply because the mind refuses to accept the answer unless the answer also protects the ego, preserves the fantasy, or avoids grief? You keep telling yourself you are looking for clarity, but often you are looking for a version of clarity that hurts less, a version that does not require surrender, a version that lets you keep what was never meant to remain, a version that makes the next step emotionally comfortable. That version rarely exists. Truth is kind, but it is not always painless. Grace is gentle, but it does not always preserve illusion. Guidance is merciful, but it will still confront whatever keeps you spiritually bound. This is why some of you feel stuck. Not because heaven has been silent, but because your heart still wants a way out that allows you to keep avoiding what must finally be faced. Maybe the way out is the boundary you have delayed. Maybe the way out is the conversation you keep rehearsing but never having. Maybe the way out is accepting that a chapter has already ended. Maybe the way out is no longer searching for confirmation from people who cannot carry the authority you keep giving them. Maybe the way out is releasing the need to know every future detail before taking the next faithful step. Maybe the way out is finally believing that peace matters more than preserving something familiar. These things sound small, but they change lives. A person can pray for months, even years, for deliverance, while walking daily past the very obedience that deliverance requires, not because they are rebellious in the obvious sense, but because the mind under pressure becomes attached to searching. Searching can feel productive. Searching can feel spiritual. Searching can feel like seriousness. But constant searching can also become avoidance when it postpones a truth your soul already recognizes. I am not telling you to become careless. I am not telling you to stop seeking me. I am telling you to stop treating endless mental striving as though it were the same thing as surrender. Real seeking eventually leads to submission. Real prayer eventually produces movement. Real discernment eventually becomes action. You have been at the edge of that for a while now. That is why this message may feel confronting, because part of you already knows where the peace is. Part of you already knows which direction carries less inner strain. Part of you already knows what you must stop feeding. Part of you already knows what continues to keep your spirit crowded. Part of you already knows that some of your search has become an attempt to avoid the grief of letting go. My child, I am not asking you to become cold. I am asking you to become clear. Clarity is mercy. Clarity stops the cycle of emotional wandering. Clarity interrupts confusion before it becomes identity. Clarity protects the future from the damage of repeated delay. Clarity closes the door on fantasies that keep draining your strength. Clarity gives peace somewhere clean to live. But clarity often costs an old story. That is what makes it painful. You do not only have to leave the problem, sometimes you have to leave the story you built around the problem. The story where one door would make everything make sense. The story where one person would finally validate your worth. The story where one answer would explain every unanswered prayer before it. The story where one breakthrough would keep you from ever hurting like this again. Those stories are heavy, and many of them are too fragile to carry the future I am preparing. So I remove some, I confront some, I expose some, not to leave you empty, to make you free enough to walk out. My child, freedom rarely begins with feeling powerful. Often it begins with finally telling the truth that this is costing too much, the truth that the peace is gone, the truth that you are tired of circling the same issue, the truth that your search has become its own prison, the truth that one faithful step matters more now than another month of emotional review. That truth does not ruin faith. It gives faith direction. There is someone listening right now who has been asking for the way out, while the way out has been standing quietly in front of them in the form of one unmade decision. You have called it complexity because complexity feels safer than obedience. Complexity buys time. Complexity delays grief. Complexity keeps the heart busy enough to avoid finality. But your soul is tired of complexity. You need the clean air of truth. You need the steadiness of obedience. You need the relief that comes when a long inner argument finally ends. That is why I am telling you this clearly. Stop searching as though the answer is somewhere far away. Search less in panic. Listen more in surrender. The way out may not solve every future question today, but it will stop the current cycle from owning you. And that matters, because sometimes what breaks a prison is not a dramatic rescue, but a decisive step. One step that says, I will not keep feeding what breaks my peace. I will not keep returning to what God has already made heavy. I will not keep begging complexity to become clarity. I will not keep living as though confusion is proof that God is absent. I will trust that the next clean step matters even before the whole road is visible. This is how many true changes begin. Not with spectacle, with surrender. Not with every answer, with one obedient act. Not with emotional certainty, with spiritual honesty. My child, you must also understand this. The way out I provide is not always only external. Sometimes the prison is not the circumstance itself. Sometimes the prison is the agreement your mind has made with fear, shame, dependency, overthinking, resentment, or fantasy. In those moments, the way out begins inwardly. You stop agreeing with what is tormenting you. You stop calling panic wisdom. You stop letting shame define the future. You stop feeding the need to control every outcome. You stop kneeling before the fear of disappointing people. You stop treating your imagination like a prophet of disaster. That inward freedom changes what the outward situation can do to you. Because once your soul is no longer serving the wrong master, the same circumstance loses some of its power to dominate you. Do you see why this matters so much? The answer is not always the immediate removal of pressure. Sometimes the answer is the restoration of authority inside you. Authority to choose peace. Authority to obey quickly. Authority to release what no longer carries grace. Authority to stop searching in the dark for what has already been lit by my truth. That is what I am restoring now. So stop assuming you are without direction, because you are without total certainty. Stop assuming confusion is your permanent atmosphere. Stop assuming the whole path must be visible before the next step can be holy. You do not need the whole path. You need the courage to stop circling what you already know. Let me pray for you. Father, for the one listening who feels trapped in confusion, quiet the noise around their heart. Break the addiction to searching without surrender. Expose the simple obedience they have been avoiding. Give them courage to take the next clean step. Where fear has made complexity feel safer than truth, bring holy clarity. Where grief has delayed action, bring gentle strength. And where your way out has already been provided, open their eyes to see it, trust it, and walk in it. In Jesus' name, amen. My child, stop searching as though I have left you without an answer. I have already begun to provide the way out. Now trust me enough to walk it.